Alright guys, so today is a day that I'm tackling one of the projects that I've been putting off for a really long time. There are a couple of on my winter list that I'm just too anxious to undertake. Every time it comes to it, I back away, and this is one of them. So today we're going to be tackling the removal of the very ugly and oversized flag mirrors on the 79 and replacing it with something a little bit more streamlined like this. So this is made by a company called Vitaloni, and I picked them up from Pegasus Racing, I think. I think they're about 90 bucks each, so not too expensive. But the process that I've been reading about on Pelican, I'm going to include the link to that below, is a very destructive process. So currently, everybody seems to be taking these flag mirrors off, and they unbolt pretty easily by the looks of things. And then they cut the cables that feed the electric motors to the mirrors. So what I don't want to do is I really don't want to cut those wires. Everything I'm doing to the car, I want to try and respect the fact that either I or somebody else in the future might want to reverse engineer some of the things that I've been doing and take it back to factory. So the last thing I want to do is go cutting these cables. So you might be able to see behind me that the driver's side mirror is actually already gone, and that's because I wanted to take a look at it all today before I fired up the camera to do this step by step, to see if it was something that I could even figure out. Fortunately, I've been able to figure out a way where you can get this flag mirror off and get behind into the motor mechanism and unplug the cables and make it completely reversible. So I'm psyched about that. I'm going to finish up the driver's side, and then we're going to crack on with the passenger side together, and I'm going to run through a step-by-step on that so you can see exactly how I'm going about it and all of the pitfalls and the little bits of trouble you might have along the way. So let's crack on with that and see how it goes. Alright, so this is what we're taking off today, and it's a pretty... I've never fully understood this design. These are such beautiful cars, and these mirrors have never fit the line of these cars ever. So what we're going to be replacing with, as I showed you earlier, is the Vitaloni. It's a much lower profile mirror, it's much more aerodynamic. I think it fits the lines of the car beautifully. You can see there's a definite size difference between these mirrors, which is again partly why I want to make sure that this process that we're going through today is going to be reversible, because if I get in this car and I decide that I just don't have the visibility that I want, then maybe we'll have to put these back on. So again, this process is going to be completely reversible, and I'm going to show you exactly how to do that. Now, in the forums, what everybody shows you is that you pull this mirror back, there's a bolt here, just a simple hex bolt that you undo, and then there is a electrical cable that feeds the motor here, and it runs down through the arm of the mirror and into the door. So everyone's been taking these mirrors off and then cutting the cables and tying them and then putting on the Vitalonis. I don't want to do that. I want to make sure that if for any reason I want to put this ugly flag mirror back on, that I can do that really simply. So what I'm going to show you how to do today is to remove the mirror housing so that you can access the plug in the back of the wing mirror and undo that so that you can then feed the cables out in a completely reversible way. So let's crack on and do that right now. Okay, so the first part of what we're going to be doing is removing the actual mirror. This is the bit that I found the most daunting because I really wasn't too sure if it was going to work. But what you need to do is you can manipulate the mirror so that you can push it back, get your fingers underneath the rim here. Now, there's a metal plate, which I'll show you once we pull the mirror off, but you can just squeeze your fingers in there and just literally, there's 3 poppers. It's pretty tight. And this is where I was anxious because I was worried that the glass would crack in me pulling it out, which I didn't want. So there's a popper just at the base here, which I can feel. That's just come loose. Oh, I feel like somebody's actually glued this in. Okay, that's different to the driver's side. It wasn't glued in there. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to show you this. So when I take the mirror off, you can see that there were these poppers. Now the driver's side had these on each of the 3 corners. Somebody's obviously messed with this before and has just glue gunned it in place, but that's the mirror that's out. So what we're left with is now we can access this motor housing. There's 3 openings here, here, and here. Inside there are 3 bolts that we need to unscrew, which I'm going to go ahead and do right now. Okay, so to do this, I am just using an 8mm little hex. Okay, as soon as they're loose, you're going to see that the whole housing starts to come away from the mirror. Okay, this guy's falling out. Alright, so we can take this out now, and you can see that you've got access to all of these plugs, and that all we need to do is just pull this off, so the mirror has come off completely. And now we're left with this plug. Now the issue is that this plug is not small enough to pass through the hole that goes through here. So what we need to do is we need to remove all of the cables that are going into this plug. Now there is a plug removal tool that you can buy, but by the time I've ordered it and it's arrived, I had to go on the other side using just a little Allen key to push these little plugs out, and it worked really well. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Just to show you how quick and easy that is, and then we'll move on to the next stage. Okay, so what you can see I'm doing is I'm literally just putting the Allen key in here. These are a little metal pin that goes into a plastic housing, and you do have to give them a really solid push. Some of them come out really easily, but others, oh, that one just won't. Okay. So I can pull all these out. I'm going to give this one last go. Alright, there we go. Okay, so that's the last one. That plug is now off. And now these cables can slide really easily through the hole that's just there. Okay, so the next phase of this is to remove the actual mirror itself and its base as well. So this whole unit is going to come away from the car. So you're going to move this back, and back down here there's a tiny little hex bolt, and we're just going to try, this is a 4mm Allen key. Okay, so this is the flag mirror that's now coming off the base. So you can see that the gasket is done, so that's going to have to be replaced. And this is the cable that's running up through into the wing mirror housing. So now that we've removed that plug, we should be able to just pull all these wires out. Now don't let them fall back into the body of the car, so just give them a little twist. Okay, we're going to put this to one side. And then the next thing that I'm going to want to do is I'm going to want to tape all of the ends of this so that there's no shorts once it's back inside the car. And I'm going to then clip it to here so that if I ever want to be able to fish these out easily, I'm going to be able to do so. And then we can replace the flag base after we've mounted the Vitalonis. Okay, so that's the cables all taped up. And I'm now going to just grab this brown one, I think. And what I want to do is I'm going to feed it back through one of the holes, just one of them. And then I'm going to zip tie it in. And then we'll just poke these cables back down into the body of the car. Okay. So there you go. So these are now always accessible if I ever want to reverse engineer this. Now, I do want to show you just one thing. I want to show you how this flag mirror sits back into here. This is important because we need to know how to mount this back on because we're keeping this base. So that little hex bolt that we undid to remove the base from the car, it's basically just this little slide, it's like a little L bracket, little grip that slides up and down. So these two pieces go into these two holes here, and then this piece goes back into the hole that we wrapped the cable in around. And that's why I only used one cable, because I did on the driver's side try to put all of them over here, and there was just not enough room for this to go in. So that's how this mounts back in, is that this would go back in like this. Of course, we replace the gasket, and then that clips all together, and then we reattach this bolt, and then we're all good to go. Okay, so the next stage is to get the Vitaloni on. Okay, so these are the pieces that we just took off the car. We've got the mirror, the motor housing, a broken gasket. This is the piece we're interested in, so we'll get these out of the way for now. So the next stage is to remove the mirror housing itself from the base. And it's pretty simple. There's a bolt that goes straight up through it there. Now, you're meant to have like a star key or something like that to take this out, but I found that just by jamming a flathead in there, it seems to come out pretty easy. Okay, so spring-loaded bolt comes out, and then this just slides out from the base. So again, we don't need this, so I'm going to put that to one side, and we're going to take a look at this for now. So the flag base is what we're going to be using, so we need to adapt the new mirror housing to fit over this stem. So this is about 1 inch in diameter, and we're actually not going to be using this bolt. We're going to replace this bolt with new bolts and washers and some rubber bushings, and put all of this back together. So let's crack on with that. Okay, so the next stage of this is to take the components of the new mirror and mount it to the original base of the old flag mirrors. So this is what we get from Vitaloni. The mirror actually comes put together. It really easily slides apart. You remove the black housing, and then we're left with this base. The internal mechanism is just a spring-loaded ball joint that allows you to make the adjustments to the mirror once it's on the base. Now, I have done sort of a pre-assembly over here. As I mentioned, I did that on the driver's side, just to see what was required. And if I take this apart for you, you can see exactly what I've done, which is I'll take off the original base, which has a sort of a 1 inch diameter stem there. And if we remove the housing, you can see that all I've done is I've just drilled a 1 inch hole in the base of this new mirror, which then slides really neatly over the base. So that's how that sits together. Now, we are going to still need to secure this. It's really nice snug fit actually, but we do need to secure this to the base, which I'm going to show you how to do a little bit later on. And then what would happen is that this would slide back on. Now, what I would definitely recommend doing is measuring this up really carefully to figure out exactly where you want this mirror to be. The reason I say that is that I guesstimated this, drilled it up on the driver's side, and when I mounted it to the driver's side, the A pillar was actually blocking my view ever so slightly here. So I definitely would prefer the mirror to be ever so slightly further forward. I would say about 1 inch, maybe 3/8 of an inch forward in this direction. So what I did do is I mounted this actually to the passenger side just to test up the view, and it's perfect for that. So when I come over and I'm going to redo this base, I am absolutely going to change the position of this hole, and I'm going to move it further back, so further back in this direction, so that I get a little bit more forward play when I mount it back to the base again. So this is actually going to end up being my driver's side mirror. This will be my passenger side mirror. So I'm going to start drilling the hole for this one, and then we'll start putting all the components together. Okay, so the easiest way that I found for doing this is we're obviously going to drill a hole directly into this area here, which I've already measured up. So I've got a pretty good sense of exactly where I need it to be. I'm using a 1 inch drill bit, and I'm going to place the mirror face down on something soft just so that it's not going to scratch up. And then I'm going to drill the hole in from in from this side. Alright, so now that we've drilled that hole, it's just about putting this all back together again. So what we're going to need is you're going to need a new bolt, a large washer, a small washer, a small thin rubber gasket, 1 inch diameter, a small self-tapping screw, and a couple of bicycle headset spacers. The distance might change depending on how you install it, but for me I need about 15 mil. So I've got 2 of these that I'm going to put together. So we're going to insert the mirror back onto the base. Of course it's going to end up being the other way around, so let's put it this way. And then what we're going to do is we're going to put the spacer onto the top here, like this. Now, the reason is that we need downward pressure to hold this plate onto the base. And the only way to do that is to put a spacer around here so that it clears the stem from the original base. And then we're going to pop a washer on the top and a bolt through there, and we're going to tighten it up on the inside using this bolt and this washer, and that's going to clamp everything down together. But the first thing that I want to do is I want to put a little rubber gasket around here for a couple of reasons. So the first is to remove any vibrations from driving. And then the other is that once this is all screwed and bolted together, I don't want to bolt it down so tightly that it doesn't move. So I want to bolt it down so it's going to hold nicely in place, but that I'm still going to be able to make some small adjustments to the mirror, because this is a small mirror, so I'm going to want to have a little bit of leeway over exactly where I can position it. So I want a little bit of rotation here, as well as being able to then move the mirror once it's all bolted to the car. So the rubber gasket is going to give us the opportunity to bolt this together without quite so much force. It's going to give it a little bit of tension that will allow us to move this and still be under tension, but be able to put it into a good place. So let's put this all together, and then we can start the next stage. Okay, so this is it all assembled. I've got just enough tension to be able to move this. It's really nice and tight, stays in place well. So the next thing is that we're going to be putting this housing, I'm going to slide this back over the top. Now, what I want to do is I want to make sure that on a spirited drive this doesn't come flying off. Now it's on really tight, and a lot of guys say that this just stays on absolutely fine, but I am going to put a screw through the base just here. So what's going to happen is it's going to go through this piece of plastic, and you can see there's a little lip here, so it's going to grip just into there, and that should just give us an extra little bit of peace of mind when we're driving down the road. Okay, so that's our mirror assembled. The next thing is just to mount this to the car. Alright, so we're back over at the car now. Just a case of mounting the base back onto the original mount in the door panel. Not forgetting, of course, that we're replacing the rubber gasket that was destroyed. So this is a little picky, I found. It doesn't really sort of fit, doesn't sort of hold perfectly over here, so I think it's going to be a bit of a case of getting this onto the car and massaging it into place a little bit, and then just bolting it down and hoping for the best. So we're going to get that done. Okay, so we're all done. I'm psyched. That went really well. I've been putting it off for ages. I don't know why. It was just a little bit intimidating with the electrical and all that kind of stuff. So I'm really happy that we've got the new mirrors on there and that everything that I've done is completely reversible. I can put the old flags back on at any time I want to. Now that's all that's left to do really with this mod is just to get her out and enjoy the car, make sure they stay on. Next up is probably going to be the rear quarter windows. Again, another project I've been putting off for a long time and really want to get to, so if I've got the guts I might try and tackle that in the next week or two, and I will definitely be posting a step-by-step of that one because I couldn't find any information out there that could help me with this install, so I'm going to have to fudge my way through it, and hopefully all the mistakes I make means that you guys won't need to. Alright, so until the next one, thanks very much again for watching, and I'll catch up with you guys soon.